a life for a life. You get what I'm saying? She took my son's life for no reason. She took my son's life because he was honest with her, that he didn't want to be with her, and she not realizing her actions, her behavior, and her entitlement is the reason why he didn't want to be with her.
Manslaughter.
You hear the sounds from that confrontation. Authorities say that 18-year-old Jahara Malik stabbed Yahkeim Lollar at the apartment garage back in 2024. It happened in Miami.
I had the knife, but I was...
Were you guys arguing before that?
No, we was just over here fighting, and then...
So you guys are arguing?
Yes, and then, well, we wasn't arguing, we was just like play fighting and stuff, and then that's when he was making me mad, and that's when I had the knife right here, and then he ended up running to it, but I'm not thinking, because he already knew I had it, he was trying to get it from me, but he ended up running to it.
What does it look like when a relationship ends but one person refuses to let it? Not just in the emotional sense, not just the late-night texts or the unwanted calls, but the kind of refusal that builds quietly beneath the surface until it becomes something else entirely. Something dangerous. Psychologists who study intimate partner violence have documented a pattern that appears with disturbing consistency across cases that end in homicide. It is called escalation. The gradual intensification of controlling behavior, boundary violations, and acts of aggression that precede the most violent outcomes. The research is clear. Homicides in romantic relationships rarely erupt without warning. They are almost always the final point on a line that started somewhere much earlier, somewhere quieter, somewhere that people around them saw, but did not recognize for what it was. To understand how that pattern played out in one Miami apartment, we need to go back to the beginning of a story that ended far too soon. The story of Yahkeim Kaine Lollar, 17 years old, known to everyone who loved him simply as Kimo. On December 20th, 2024, Yahkeim Lollar was at home in his apartment on the 6100 block of Northwest 6th Court in Miami. It was a Friday night, 5 days before Christmas. His mother, Natalie Jean, later recalled that it had been an ordinary evening. The kind of evening that families don't think to memorize because there is no reason yet to believe it will be the last. She and her youngest daughter Treasure were putting up a Christmas tree. Kimo came out of his room, laughed at the pink tree, teased his sister about waiting too long at the store. They played music, they danced. They sang along to Mariah Carey. His mother asked him to take out the trash. He promised he'd do everything in the morning. That was the last thing he said to her before he went back to his room. Yahkeim Lollar was a senior at Miami Northwestern High School. He was a running back on the football team fast enough that his own coaches knew early that he was something special. He had dreams of becoming a stockbroker. He was a math student who excelled. He gave the shirt off his back to friends who had less than he did. His teachers remembered him. His teammates remembered him. His aunts, uncles, cousins, and classmates filled a courtroom months later, one after another, each of them trying to find language large enough to hold who he actually was. None of them fully could. His aunt Eldrina Beecham, a 32-year veteran of the Miami-Dade Police Department, described watching him at a family cookout, laughing and eating, calling out to her as she left. A growing young man. She told him, "When you're driving your expensive car one day, don't leave me at the bus stop." He laughed and told her he never would. His mother had plans of her own. She was preparing to go back to school to study sports management, not for herself but so she could be equipped to manage her son's career when the time came. That is the depth of what Yahkeim Lollar represented to the people around him. Not just a son, a future that everyone in his life was already building toward. Jahara Malik was Yahkeim's ex-girlfriend. She was also 17 years old. The relationship had ended. According to testimony from Yahkeim's mother, Jahara called her on December 12, 8 days before the killing, and told her that Yahkeim had broken up with her. 8 days later, surveillance video captured Jahara Malik dropping a knife near the crime scene on the 3rd floor of the parking garage at Yahkeim's apartment complex. He was found with a single stab wound to the chest. The blade entered from the left side approximately at the heart, 4 inches. He bled out. Jahara told investigators the two had been horseplaying just before the stabbing. The family did not accept that account, and the evidence did not support it. Prosecutors presented surveillance footage showing what they described as a deliberate act. The medical examiner noted the trajectory of the wound. There were no defensive injuries on Yahkeim's body. He had been taught, his father told the court, not to hit girls, and when someone he trusted came downstairs to the apartment where he lived, he let her in. Jahara Malik was initially charged with manslaughter and carrying a concealed weapon. The charge of carrying a deadly weapon was added later, not at the initiative of the original investigation, but at the request of the victim's family and a single police officer who flagged its absence. Without that enhancement, Malik's maximum exposure would have been 15 years. With it, 30. She pleaded guilty in March 2026.
For you, a teenage girl stabbed her boyfriend to death amid an argument, and today, nearly 2 years later, she's pleaded guilty. The deadly stabbing happened in Northwest Miami-Dade, December of 2024.
Christian Colon is with us now with that major update from the courtroom. And Christian, will this teenager get any prison time for killing her boyfriend?
Yeah, that's right. Jahara Malik pleaded guilty today, and now she will let the judge decide her sentencing. When it comes to prison time, she is facing up to 30 years behind bars. Take a look. This is Jahara Malik. She was 17 at the time that she stabbed her boyfriend. She's charged with manslaughter for killing her boyfriend, 17-year-old Yahkeim Lollar. Lollar's family has been very vocal since the beginning, holding protests outside the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office, demanding accountability. Their calls for justice eventually led prosecutors to actually file charges against Malik more than a month after the killing. Today, nearly 2 years later, the case will not go to trial. There was no plea offer. Instead, Malik pleaded guilty and will allow a judge to decide her punishment. The victim's family says they want the max here, which is, like I mentioned, 30 years in prison. Let's listen to what they told us.
I want the max. You know, that's what I want. A life for a life. You get what I'm saying? She took my son's life for no reason. She took my son's life because he was honest with her, that he didn't want to be with her, and she not realizing her actions, her behavior, and her entitlement is the reason why he didn't want to be with her.
Manslaughter is negligent conduct that was brought on, even though it was not intended to result. It says a whole lot, as far as I'm concerned, her recognizing and accepting responsibility.
Again, back here live in May, there was a hearing scheduled for May 5th. There will be a sentencing hearing. State attorneys will likely ask for prison time. Meanwhile, defense attorneys, who of course represents Malik, they will ask for mercy because since the beginning they have always claimed that this was an accident. Again, this sentencing hearing is set for May 5th. I'll send it back to you guys. We're now live in Miami. Christian Colon, NBC6 News.
Now let's apply what the behavioral science tells us about intimate partner violence to what actually happened here, because this case did not begin on December 20th. It began somewhere much earlier, and the people around Yahkeim Lollar were watching it without having the framework to recognize what it was. Walker's cycle of violence, developed in the 1970s and refined through decades of research, describes a repeating pattern in abusive relationships. Tension building, an incident of violence, a reconciliation phase, and a period of relative calm before the tension rebuilds again. What this model captures and what is relevant here is that violence in intimate relationships rarely appears once and then stops. It escalates. Each cycle tends to intensify, and the controlling behaviors that appear between violent incidents are not separate from the violence. They are part of the same pattern. Yahkeim's aunt, in her victim impact statement to the court, described behaviors that fit this escalation model precisely. She told the judge that there were reports of Jahara going into Yahkeim's classroom, taking his backpack, pouring soda into it, throwing it into the hallway. This is not just adolescent conflict. In the framework of intimate partner violence, these are control behaviors, acts designed to humiliate, destabilize, and assert dominance over a partner who is trying to create distance. Yahkeim had been taught not to respond physically, so he absorbed it, and the behaviors escalated. His father testified that the state later informed the family of something they had not known during the relationship. This was not the first time Jahara had pulled a knife on Yahkeim. She had cut him before. That information, according to Yahkeim's father, was never used to enhance the charges. It was never the basis for an arrest. It existed somewhere in the background of this relationship, known to some and acted on by no one. Psychologists who study lethality assessment, the process of evaluating how likely a domestic situation is to turn fatal, have identified a set of risk factors that are more predictive of homicide than any other indicators. Among them, recent separation or attempted separation, prior acts of strangulation or knife violence, escalating controlling behavior, and a perpetrator who refuses to accept the end of the relationship. Yahkeim Lollar's situation, as reconstructed through the trial record, contained several of these. The relationship had just ended. There was a prior history of knife contact. There was documented behavior designed to intimidate and control him at school. And 8 days after being told the relationship was over, Jahara Malik came to his apartment with a knife she later said she carried for protection. That last detail is important. Carrying a knife for protection implies an understanding of what a knife does. The defense's mental health expert, when pressed on this point during cross-examination, confirmed that Jahara Malik understood that knives were dangerous, that they could cause harm, and that they could be used to endanger someone's life. This was not a case of a young person who did not understand the object in her hand. On the night of December 20th, Yahkeim's father had left work early. It was his mother's birthday. She had passed away in 2021 and he drove to the cemetery. He called Kimo on the way and invited him to come visit Granny's grave. His son said he was playing PlayStation. The father didn't push. He gave him his independence. He was 17. He knew what he was into. Hours later, it was a classmate, not a police officer, who first called Natalie Jean and told her something had happened to her son. A text message from someone else confirmed it. Jahara had stabbed Kimo. By the time a police officer reached Yahkeim's mother at the scene, it was to tell her that he hadn't made it. She told the court what she remembered from that moment. She said she turned into a little girl that night. She called out for her father. She said, "My child is dead. They told me they killed my child." She had to call Yahkeim's father herself and tell him his son was gone. Her daughter called from the hospital, still not believing it. People she called that night hung up the phone because they couldn't accept what she was telling them. Because nobody who knew Yahkeim Lollar could reconcile who he was with what had just happened to him. His funeral was held at the Haitian Evangelical Baptist Church of Miami. Dozens of people attended. His classmates carried a banner. His family described being overwhelmed by the size of the crowd. The entire city, it seemed, had come out for Kimo.
Well, tonight, final remembrances were held for 17-year-old Yahkeim Lollar, known by his friends as Kimo. He was killed in a stabbing on December 20th, and it happened in the area of Northwest 6th Court and 61st Street. The family has accused his 17-year-old ex-girlfriend of stabbing him to death. Many gathered today at the Haitian Evangelical Baptist Church of Miami for his funeral service. Family members spoke on all the support they've received.
Seeing how much love he's getting and how much everybody got for, how much love everyone got for him is so mind-blowing. My baby brother was loved, and me and my family appreciate it for all the love you guys showing.
Kimo was a senior at Miami Northwestern High School and a running back for its football team. He had dreams of becoming a stockbroker.
In the months that followed, his mother marked each passing on social media with a post. Every 20th of the month became a public reckoning with her grief. In July 2025, 7 months after the killing, she wrote about the moment she heard the words, "The detective, the hospital, Yahkeim Lollar. Your son, I'm sorry to tell you, he didn't make it." She wrote, "My world shattered that day. One of my prized possessions was gone." In September 2025, 9 months out, she wrote that she didn't know what she was going to do with herself for his upcoming birthday. In October, she wrote that she would give anything just to see his face again. In November, she wrote that each month gets harder knowing he's not coming back. And in January 2025, in the weeks after the killing, before the charges had fully solidified, she posted a direct challenge to anyone willing to listen. A 17-year-old had been murdered. His killer had not yet been arrested. And the Malik family, she noted, was the family of a man who had received the key to the city of Miami. She asked how a city could honor someone that way and then stay silent about the pain caused by their family. The Facebook post attached to this case from Tracy Washington reflects something that Yahkeim's family and community understood immediately, even as some social media commentary was moving in a different direction. Washington wrote, as the parent of a murdered child herself, someone who had received justice, a 25-year sentence for her son's killer, she pushed back on the sympathy being extended to the defendant, the comparisons to other cases, the minimization of the victim. She wrote he did no wrong and died because someone couldn't understand, know, or control their emotions. She will only be 35 when she gets out. He never will. Sentencing took place on May 6, 2026. The courtroom was full. One by one, Yahkeim's family stood and spoke. His aunt, the police officer, told the judge that in all her years in law enforcement, nothing had shaken her to the core the way this had. She expected to look down into her nephew's casket, not the other way around. She asked for 30 years. His other aunt told the court that he had been a math whiz, a loving brother, a young man whose kindness and trusting nature were taken advantage of in a split second. His brother said that the last time he saw Kimo in person, he caught him in his arms after a touchdown like it was just the two of them in the world. Nothing else mattered. His classmates submitted a written statement speaking as one voice. Our friend was real, and what you did had weight and consequence and human cost beyond yourself. His father, a man who identified himself to the court as someone labeled by the system, who said it was his first time on the right side of the law, stood before the judge and said the things that a father says when he's had everything taken from him, and then had to watch the process of accountability become something he had to fight for, step by step, for over a year. He said the investigation had been mishandled. He said the charges had come too late and too light. He said the only reason the deadly weapon enhancement existed at all was because of a single police officer who noticed it was missing. He said he didn't like the way the case was handled. He wasn't apologizing for that. And Natalie Jean Yahkeim's mother stood before the judge and told her about the pink Christmas tree, about Mariah Carey, about taking her son to his first football practice, running alongside the field shouting his name, about the day a 3-year-old Kimo watched her give blood because someone had once saved his life, and about the day in high school when he walked into her room and said, "Mom, I remembered what you told me. I gave blood today." She told the court how she identified her son's body by photograph, forwarded after he died, because the funeral home asked her if she was sure she wanted to see him like that. She said, "That's my baby." She went. She told the court about closing the casket, about going down with it each time it lowered, about hearing the click. She said, "I do not want to leave here today feeling like I lost my son all over again." Here's where the behavioral science falls short, and it is important to say this clearly. The escalation framework, the lethality assessment model, the cycle of violence, all of these describe patterns that appear after the fact. They describe what we can see when we look backward. They do not reliably predict in advance which relationship will end in homicide. Thousands of relationships involve controlling behavior, jealousy, prior acts of aggression, and the refusal to accept separation and do not end in someone's death. Behavioral science can identify risk. It cannot identify certainty. What that means practically is that the failure in this case was not purely individual. It was systemic. The prior knife incident that the family said existed was known to someone and acted on by no one. The school-based control behaviors, the backpack, the harassment, the classroom intrusions were observed by adults and not understood as part of a broader pattern of intimate partner violence. The investigative response in the immediate aftermath of the killing was, by the family's account, slow, non-transparent, and shaped by factors that had nothing to do with the evidence. Behavioral science gave investigators and school officials every tool they needed to recognize what was happening to Yahkeim Lollar. The tools were not applied. What this case teaches us is simple and devastating. The warning signs of intimate partner violence are visible well before a killing, but they are only recognized in retrospect when the person we were supposed to protect is already gone. Yahkeim Lollar was not killed by a stranger. He was killed by someone who came to his home, someone he opened the door for, someone he had trusted and loved. The behavioral patterns that preceded December 20th, 2024, the escalation, the control, the refusal to accept the end of the relationship were present in his school, in his neighborhood, in the testimony of people who knew him, and they went unaddressed. The practical implication for all of us, parents, teachers, school counselors, family members, friends, is this controlling behavior between young people in relationships is not drama. It is not immaturity. It is a risk factor, and it should be treated as one. When a teenager is having their belongings taken, their space violated, when they're being followed or pressured or isolated, the adults around them have a responsibility to name what they're seeing and intervene before it escalates further. The question we leave you with is this: how many Yahkeim Lollars are in schools right now, enduring the early stages of exactly this pattern, and how many of the adults around them are calling it something else? His name was Yahkeim Kaine Lollar. He was 17 years old. He wanted to be a stockbroker. He remembered conversations from the time he was 3. He made his family laugh in the dark times. He had a smile that stayed with every room he walked out of. Long live Kimo. If this case moved you, if it made you think differently about what warning signs look like, share it, comment below, and subscribe to RedRage Crime TV on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Justice for Kimo starts with awareness, and awareness starts here.
I'll use Miss Jean's. Mom, I'm going to use Mom. It's okay. I'm Judge Stowe. For the limited purposes, if you don't mind, I'll just have Miss Jean stand here. Can you please state your name for the record?
Hi, good morning. My name is Natalie Jean.
Ms. Jean, you're going to be placed under oath. Please swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Jean, I'm showing you, or can you spell your name out for the record, just for the court reporter and the clerks?
It's Nathalie, middle initial is L, last name Jean, like Jean Pants.
Can you tell the judge, I know she's going to hear from you later, but who exactly you are and how you're related to the victim in this case?
Okay. I'm Yahkeim Lollar's mother.
I am showing you a screenshot of what has been previously marked and identified as State's Exhibit 1A. Can you tell the court what this is?
This was a text message that was provided to me from one of his classmates. It actually came from the boy that Jahara was dating, and he wanted me to know that he wanted the classmate to show me that she does have a history of that. So they forwarded it to me, and I provided it to the detective.
Okay. And that classmate, what's his name?
The one who sent.
The one who sent it to you, took the screenshot.
Oh, the screenshot was, his name was Ted, and then he forwarded it to, he gave it to Cece so Cece could know to give it to me. Okay. And then I gave it to the detective.
And Cece is the young girl who's sitting back in the courtroom.
Yes.
Just something, right?
Yes.
And Ted was a previous boyfriend of the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is a screenshot from his phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you familiar with iPhones?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So the blue text messages are who?
Are his iPhone. From him, I'm sorry.
And the gray text messages are from who?
Jahara.
And I think the C up here where it says at the top, crybaby, is that the contact in his phone?
Yeah, that was the contact he had her save under.
Okay. And is this a fair and accurate representation of that text message that you were provided by Cece and that he took a screenshot of?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, at this time, the state would seek to introduce what has been previously marked as State's Exhibit 1A as State's Exhibit 1 for the purposes of sentencing. I think the foundation has been sufficiently laid.
Mr. Handel?
Judge, I would be objecting just based upon one, with all due respect, I don't think there has been no verification indicating as that there's a communication that was taking place between my client and this third or fourth person. And so therefore that's the problem with it. Just based upon the testimony that was just represented right now. And so that's...
Okay, we are in a sentencing hearing, so the rules of evidence are lax, and I'll give it whatever weight, but I'm going to overrule the objection and I'll allow it to be admitted for the court's consideration.
Thank you, Judge.
Will be admitted as part of exhibit.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, I know that there is a doctor waiting, so I do have 10 witnesses, so I'll defer to
He said that there was no issue with that.
So at this point, the state is going to call, I lost my list. Sorry, I put my list somewhere. Oh, here we go. Sorry. I believe the first person that wants to speak on behalf of the family is Ms. Zelda Beecham.
Good afternoon, Ms. Beecham. Please come forward. You're going to be placed under oath.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Good afternoon.
Whenever you're ready, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Your Honor. Can everybody hear me clearly? Yes. My name is Zeldrina Beecham. I'm one of 4 of the paternal aunts of Yahkeim Lollar. I'm writing this victim impact statement to express to you how much I have been impacted by Jahara Malik murdering him. Your Honor, I ask that you please be patient with me. This is the toughest thing I have ever had to do in my life. During these court proceedings, as a family, we had to sit there and watch her smirk in the courtroom, show no remorse, and being Yahkeim's aunt, it was really hard for me and for my family. Okay? I remember the day when he was a baby and he came home from the hospital. I took my nephew David Jr. and my niece Amani Lollar, who are his siblings, to see him. He was the sweetest little baby I have ever seen. I gazed at him as he laid there, as innocent and as sweet as he could be. And there's still a part of me that sees him like that. Kahim, as we affectionately call him, Kimo, as we affectionately call him, has always been a bright light in our family. Even during the dark times when we experienced great losses of the people we loved in our family. He was a jokester. He always brought levity to whatever negative situation we had in our family. He was the one that you could always, he gonna make you laugh, regardless of the situation. He made me so proud to be his aunt, not just because he was an excellent student athlete, but because he was a very loving and thoughtful and caring type of person. He always thought of others and cared about their well-being, even going out of his way to share clothing and shoes with his friends who were less fortunate. I remember when my auntie Elena had this family function at her house commemorating the life of my deceased mother, who passed away on June 15, 2021. So this was 3 years after her passing. We were at the function celebrating, just in her memory. My brothers were grilling on the charcoal grill, chicken and barbecue ribs, while our favorite music was pumping through the speakers. Some family members were swimming in the backyard pool, others were singing and dancing and just sitting around conversing with each other. We were just creating great family memories. He was there mixing it up with the family and eating and laughing and having a great time. When I was leaving the function, he called out my name. When I turned around, he screamed out to me, telling me goodbye. He had a big smile on his face. I'll never forget that. I was thinking to myself, my nephew is not a baby anymore. He's a growing young man. I smiled back at him, but inside I was crying, knowing that he would have to go out into this cruel, cruel world and create a life for himself. He used to come with his father, who is my brother, and help me put up hurricane shutters at my house whenever a storm was looming. He used to come with his father to help me out in the backyard with my vegetable garden. He was always around to help me with whatever I was doing. The older I get, the loss of that physical assistance that he offered to me is missed. I used to say to him, nephew, when I'm a little old lady sitting on the bus stop in the hot sun, and you drive by in your expensive new car, please pick me up and give me a ride home. And he said, he would laugh and he would say, Auntie, I would never let you sit on the bus stop and not take you home. And that was him. He cared for people. He loved people. Then I would say, okay, baby. He would then smile and continue whatever mischief he was engaging in. Now, because of Jahara Malik's actions, I must go through life knowing that I will never see the full potential of what he could have been in his life. I won't get phone calls from him excitedly telling me things about his future plans for his life. I won't be able to give him advice about whatever's going on in his life. I will never have a chance to see him graduate from high school, college. He wanted to be a stockbroker, and he was on his way. I won't ever see him create a family of his own or accomplish the many milestones of his life that he was going to accomplish because he was just that awesome. He will never be able to go on another camping trip with me. He will never be there again to help me put those heavy hurricane shutters up on my windows whenever we're getting a hurricane. I won't have this strong young man in my family to help me lift heavy bags of soil or fertilizers for my garden, which provided nourishment for my family. I will no longer have him to wrap his arms around me and kiss me on my cheek and tell me how much he loves me. As his aunt, I will no longer be able to reach into my bag and place a piece of candy or a $20 bill in his hand so that he could get himself some sweet treats or chicken wings and fries like he liked. I will no longer be able to tell him how proud I am of him, of being the person that he has become, and how much of an asset he is to our family. My son will not have him as a speaker at my funeral. He will not be there to console my son when my life is over. I will no longer be able to look at his fresh new haircut, and tell him that he looks so handsome. And those girls better watch out, because he's be standing there smiling and blushing and telling me, "Oh, Auntie, come on. You're doing too much, Auntie." No longer having him in my life leaves a hole in my heart and a deficit in my life that could never be filled. I'm gingerly moving through this life like I am living in the twilight zone, literally. Because not in my wildest dreams did I think that my nephew, being such the good person that he was, would be murdered like this. This world to me right now is really upside down. In all my years of life, nothing has shaken me to the core like this has. And believe me, I've suffered great losses in my life. I really expected my nephew to be looking down inside of my casket instead of me looking down in his casket. Because of Jahara Malik, I have a skewed view of the world right now. And that didn't do me. I wasn't like that with my 32 years as a police officer with the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office. Nothing has skewed my view of this life like she has. My 5 siblings and I did not anticipate burying one of our babies. Yet, here we are living this nightmare. Your Honor, it's not fair to us to go through life like this. As a family, we don't even think that 30 years in prison would be enough punishment for her. But we definitely want you to give her the max, Your Honor. I've always honorably upheld law and order, because when I took that oath, I took it to heart. And I served the streets of Miami honorably. Your Honor, I would like to see justice. I would like to see the justice system working my favor and my family's favor. I have given so much, and I just ask for the maximum, at least for my sacrifices that I've made. Jahara Malik, there are many times in court proceedings you will be sitting there smiling and laughing with your family members and showing no remorse for taking my nephew's life. It's not a laughing matter to us. It never has been. It took all we had to stop from jumping across that thing and doing something to you. It will always be a fact that you are a murderer. You are a demon seed that your parents brought into this world to bring suffering on everybody else. Shame on them. When you go to prison, your life will be controlled by the prison guards and the inmates. Your dignity will be taken away from you. You will have to shower and urinate and defecate in front of other inmates. You'll probably get beat up because you're slick mouth and your attitude. There are a myriad of different things that can happen to you in there. And you know what we're going to be doing? We're going to be cheering and saying, yeah, she deserved it. If you want somebody to feel sorry for you or to forgive you for what you have done, get somebody else to do it. Because I will not, and we will not. If you was to go to hell, I would spit on you to put you out. I hope the thoughts of him screaming for help permeates in that smooth surface brain of yours, and the smell of the blood that you shed from my nephew's young body haunts you while you sleep and while you're wide awake for the rest of your life. Your Honor, I apologize if I offended you, and that's the only person who I care about offending. And if I did that, I really apologize to you for that. I'm telling you, Your Honor, this thing has really devastated me. And I apologize. In closing, I know that the things that y'all had to hear from me wasn't an easy thing to hear, but they are true to my heart and to my core. And I just want to urge you again, Your Honor. I know that the state, is requesting like 20 years plus 10 years probation, but we want to see her get the full sentence, the maximum 30 years. That's what we want, Your Honor, because we really believe that she deserved a whole lot more. There were times we got reports of her going into his classroom, taking his book bag, pouring soda in his book bag, or taking his book bag and throwing it in the hallway, bullying him. And he was taught not to hit girls. And it makes me think maybe we should tell our boys to hit girls back. And he didn't do that, and look at what happened to him. Again, Your Honor, I apologize. I know it's not easy listening to me, but I mean it to my heart. And thank you so much for listening.
Ms. Rodisha Jean would like to speak.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is David Yahkeim Lollar, Sr., proud father of a gem of a son, Yahkeim Kaine Lollar. And before I tell you how the murder of my son affected me, I want to let you know how it affected my other two kids right there. My son like 6'5", my oldest boy like 6'5", like was 280. He lost like 50 pounds in the immediate aftermath. He was, through talks we had, he was, sorry son, contemplating suicide, okay. My daughter, she has chronic sickle cell, all right, and from the day of the funeral for like the following 2 weeks, she was admitted in the hospital, taking breathing treatments, contracted pneumonia, had a self-administering morphine pump. The doctor telling me, watch her, make sure she breathing before you leave. I'm spending nights out there at the hospital, going straight to work the next day. I was really thought I was at risk of losing all my kids, being kidless, okay? All right. It's kind of uncomfortable for me. I'm doing what I gotta do for my son. I'm a habitual felon, labeled by the system. This is my first time on this side of the law, but I really want to speak about the injustice that I feel has taken place here. All right. From the night of the arrest, from the night of the incident, nobody informed us nothing about anything. All we know, we were just summoned to the headquarters. We were released and never found out anything else. We had to find out from the street. Charges were never filed. Okay, and I feel like it's a slap in the face to be 40 days in and they come back with manslaughter. All right, and with all the evidence that we've seen, that they've called us down there to see, medical examiner, the body cam worn video from the scene of the crime, all right, it's just baffling to me how they can take all this time to come up with a manslaughter charge. We feel as though she's been undercharged, all right? We've been seeking the enhancement from the beginning, all right? And you know, they like the defense would like to call it accountability, all right, saying that she pleading guilty now, all right? But we think it's being smart because we always been seeking enhancement for the charges, all right? So this is like they're getting ahead of the ball right now, all right? It's 16, 18, a year and a half in, all right? And we supposed to have a phone dump by today's court date, all right? It kind of sounds like water and oil mixing together because, I mean, it's over with at this point. You know, for us to get a phone dump today, it probably won't even do us no good. All right. What if there's content in her phone? Because kids text each other, they don't talk. You know what I'm saying? What if it's something that she sent a message to her friend saying, I'm gonna F him up? You get what I'm saying? That would have showed premeditation. That would have showed intent. That would have showed a whole lot of things that we could have got these charges upgraded. All right. We've been seeking that from the beginning. All right. We feel like the whole investigation was influenced from the jump. All right, we feel like it was a whole perfect storm for it to happen on the city of Miami side. I'm from a place called Lincolnfield, all right? Everybody probably know it for all the wrong reasons, all right? I've been shot down, AK-47. I done seen people murdered, know a lot of murderers. Don't know anybody that was granted this luxury right here, all right, to be kill someone that night, all right, to be held in custody, taken into interrogation, and released without charge. Like, come on. I feel as though they could have charged her with manslaughter that night if you're going to take all this time to come up with that charge. All right. It was my sister, the police officer, that added the additional charge, that requested through Kevin Bettencourt to add an additional charge of with the deadly weapon, you know, because even before that, she was only eligible to get up to 15 years. All right, because it's a deadly weapon, now it's up to 30. All right, but we shouldn't have to do the prosecutors in the state job. You get what I'm saying? It's more upsetting to me than anything. Yeah, my son gone. He ain't coming back. I'm at peace with that. You get what I'm saying? I don't like the way this case was handled, Your Honor. You know what I'm saying? And then we met with the state attorney. We met with Catherine Fernandez-Rundle. The chief of police called us down. We had a meeting with him. I'm quite sure they don't meet with all victims of families of homicide. All right? So it leads me to wonder why. All right? Maybe they know they messed up the case or mishandled the case. All right? It just ain't nothing makes sense right now at this point. You know what I'm saying? I want to talk about Kimo a little bit because he was the most humblest guy. Well respectable. Kimo was so humble. Kimo, I went to pick him up from Charles R. Drew Elementary one day, and his teacher say, hey, in PE, the PE teacher like, hey, the kid's super fast, he jumps super far, and he's super high, and he's just this super athlete. I'm like, Kimo ain't tell you? At this point, Kimo had won 3 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowl MVP. Kimo go to school and nobody knows nothing. He was 10 years old at that point. All right? Kimo do not brag on himself. He brag on his daddy. All right? His daddy the best barber. All right? He wouldn't let nobody else cut his hair. All right? Nobody can beat his daddy in basketball if you listen to him. All right? And nobody's better with the bookie if you listen to Kimo. Kimo praises his dad. His dad was his hero. You know, I defend Kimo. I rescue him. I save him. I was robbed that night. I lived 5 walking blocks from Kimo. Walking distance. And that was taken from me that night. So that day, the day of the incident of the murder, I left work early. The graveyard closed at 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. It was my mom's birthday, December 20th. She passed away in 2021. So I called Kimo. I left work early. I get off at 5 o'clock. The graveyard be closed. I called Kimo and invited him to the graveyard this day. You know, I called him and told him I was going to see my mom. They refer to her as Granny. All right. I said, I'm going to see Granny. Kimo, what you doing? He like, I'm playing the PlayStation. And he didn't volunteer to come, so I didn't tell him to put it down and come. Give him his independent. He's 17. I know what he was into. And it was that night that I got that call. I just had invited him to the graveyard. Kimo wasn't hanging around the wrong crowd. It took for somebody he loved and trusted to do him like that. Kimo wasn't no chump. He was a well-respectable young man. He was taught to not be abusive to women. And I think that was his ultimate. That was the reason for his demise. Because I also feel as though if it would have happened, if he would have may have defended himself the first time, because a lot of stuff we found out throughout this whole thing that we did not even know. You get what I'm saying? And I don't understand why these charges with the stuff that they're telling, with the information that the state was giving us. I just couldn't understand why it's not a second-degree murder charge. And not only that, even if you were to charge us that and convict as a lesser offense, we see this all the time. You get what I'm saying? I don't know why that wasn't applicable in this case. It's just, nothing makes sense with this case, all right? We feel, again, like I said, the case was affected from the beginning. The city of Miami, her granddad got the key to the city of Miami, all right? We feel as though if it would have happened on the Metro-Dade side, she would have been in custody that night. You get what I'm saying? It's all what anybody could think anything, but again, man, we just don't understand how it took all this time to come up with the manslaughter charge. With all the evidence and everything that they've told us happened, it is not an isolated incident, what we found out through the state, through y'all. You get what I'm saying? This has happened before. She's pulled the knife on him. She's cut him with a knife before. You get what I'm saying? I can't even bring myself to address her. I don't feel no ill will towards her family, because I'm quite sure if they knew that she was going to pull some stunt like that, they would have told her, sit your butt down, you stupid girl, you could sit your name. So again, I don't feel no ill will towards her family throughout these whole proceedings. We've made it our business to not threaten, not to address, not to do anything towards her or her family. All we hear is we seeking justice here, all right? And again, it's uncomfortable for me. This is my first time on the side of this law, and I am way out of my element. It doesn't even matter. I'm gonna stand up and honor my son and defend my son, all right? At every chance I get, and I'm sorry, that's it, man. I just wanted to be heard, man. I don't like the way this case was handled. You know, it wasn't no transparency. Nobody talked to us, ain't nobody said nothing, man. You know what I'm saying? We had to hold rallies and then I'll do all this to get some kind of charges brought. And it's unfair. It's unfair. It's unfair. I don't like it at all. And I'm sorry if I disrespected the court. I don't got nothing else to say.
You did not disrespect the court.
She's already under oath.
Do I need to do it?
No.
Oh. Good morning, Your Honor. I do want. Oh, I'm sorry. It's along with that. I do want to thank you for allowing everyone to speak today. So I am going to tell you a little bit more about my son and who he was, and then leave from there. Okay. Right. On September 28th, I was getting my hair done, and I ended up getting contractions. So I'm like, Trell, my stomach hurt. She's like, girl, go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom. I said, I'm bleeding, Trell. I don't know what to do. I'm just panicking. She's like, oh my God, oh my God. Her mom's a registered nurse. She ran in the bathroom, and mind you, my pants, everything is on the floor, so all my good stuff is showing. So I'm just standing there, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I'm bleeding. I just, Kimo, I hope Yahkeim's okay, because I always told his dad that I loved his middle name, so if we ever had a child, that would be my son's name. So I already had his name prepared. And she was like, all right, we're gonna call the ambulance. So they called the ambulance, they rushed me, they called my doctor in at North Shore Hospital. And when they called my doctor, and Mira was having a conversation, she's like, well, Miss Jean, you seem like everything's okay. I don't see anything wrong. I said, but why am I bleeding? Nobody can't tell me why am I bleeding. She was like, well, he's a big kid inside of you. He's already 5 pounds, so it wouldn't hurt to take him out early. Because Kimo's original birthday was November 3rd. Like that. So she was like, I said, well, you're the doctor. What would you do? She was like, take him out. So they prepared me for emergency C-section that day. So we ended up going to the emergency room, and my mom and my sisters and dad came, because you know I'm the big sister, so everybody's rallying around me, and I'm just got my head down and I'm praying. They talking, but I'm praying the whole time. All I'm saying is, God, let my baby be okay. And then we went into surgery, and he came out. The pediatric doctor said, he's gonna need a blood transfusion. I said, okay, no problem, but I don't hear him crying. Before you take my baby, I want to hear him crying. I need to make sure he's okay. He was like, but he's okay. I said, no. I need to hear my baby. But you could take him after that. So Kimo started to cry, and they left. And that always stuck with me and stuff. So fast forward, I think he was like 3 or 4. We was coming from Dixie, and they had the blood drive trucks outside. And the lady came, she's like, hey, would you like to give out blood today? I said, sure. I said, let me drop my groceries and I'm gonna go. And Kimo was like, hey, you know, he's just always bouncing everywhere and everything. And he's like, Mom, what is that? I said, I'm gonna tell you why I'm doing it. He's like, huh? So he's looking at me as we go in there. I said, you know, someone saved your life. So that's why today I choose to give blood. When you get older, I want you to do the same thing. Because if that person didn't donate blood for you, you wouldn't be here today. And he was like, with his little eyes, you know, he has the most adorable eyes and a beautiful smile. Okay, mommy, no problem. Fast forward to high school. I'm in my room, cleaning up. I just hear my door go boom. I'm like, oh, here he go. Then he comes in, he's like, Mom. And he bounced just like this in my room. Mom, guess what I did today? I'm like, what, Kimo? What did you do today? He's like, I gave blood. I remember when you told me that, so I gave blood today. I said, that's what I'm talking about, boy. I know that's right. He was like, I got 2 pizzas and a movie ticket, but I did, but I gave it today. That's the type of person my son is. You see, he remembered that from 3 years old. He remembered that conversation. He remembered somebody saved his life, so he was willing to save somebody else's life. So this is why it's hurting everybody out here. See, the difference is that someone was able to save my son's life by giving out blood, but that night that Jahara took my son's life, nobody could have saved his life. Nobody. It was nothing they could do. She gave my son a death sentence. It was nothing nobody could do for my son. I find myself like just dreaming about how I took him to his first football practice and he's crying and whining and I'm like, oh, you gotta stick this out. You told me you want to play football? You're gonna play football. You got me coming out of here and you told me you finna cry? No, we're gonna stick. I remember running side. I started from saying, go, Kimo, go. Run, Kimo, go. Take off, Kimo, take off. That's how I started. I'm one of those parents who's running aside the sideline with their kid, screaming out his name all the time. Imagine watching your son grow to be the person that you want him to be, and you getting them ready for the future. You're preparing your son, because if you have kids and if you have a son, especially a brown son or a black son, you teach your kids how to conduct themselves out here when you're not. I always tell my kids, you are a representation of me. So you carry yourself as such. You understand what I'm saying? My son is yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. You will meet my son one day and you'll remember him for the rest of your life. She took that away. The night of, it was a regular day in our house. We was putting up the Christmas tree, me and Treasure, my youngest. He came in the living room, the first thing he said, because he's always a jokester, pink tree, huh, Mom? Pink tree. I said, boy, you better ask your sister, which is my oldest, Tamia. She waited the last minute to get that Christmas tree, so we got to get what we get. And we all was in there doing the tree. And for some reason, it's just like it wasn't coexistent or whatever. It was just a beautiful day. Tamia was coming she was coming in the door, and he was coming in out of his room, and we was playing music. And we was just like, it was just our song, and we was dancing. We was listening to Mariah Carey, We Belong Together. And then he just coming out the room, and he's just singing. He's like, when you left, I lost a part of me. And he just singing his heart out. And then we in the background, we his little cheerleaders, like, we belong together. And we just singing. And then it was just, that's our normal routine. You know what I'm saying? It was just a beautiful day. Never would we imagine that. We ate, he went in his room. I said, oh, hey, Jig, the trash. He told me, all right, Mom. I said, no, your room. He was like, oh, okay. I said, I'm off tonight, so I'm going to be here. He said, Mom, I promise I'm going to do everything in the morning. That was the last thing my son told me when I went in my room. Mom, I promise I'm going to do everything in the morning. Then I got that phone call. Not from police officers or nothing. One of his classmates called me and said, "Mom, something happened to Kimo. You need to go to the hospital." Then somebody texted me, "Jahara stabbed Kimo." But her lawyer want to say she reached out to me. When she want to talk to me about other stuff and communicate, she know my number, but she didn't know it that night. Well, her mind was a fog that night, but when we talk on a regular, she knows my number. And then an officer, as I'm on the scene, tells me, "Miss Jean, yes, is Yahkeim Lollar your son?" "Yes, I'm sorry to tell you, he didn't make it." Why? I'm just getting on the phone with my dad to explain to him what's going on, but I don't know what's going on. I turned into a little girl that night. Could you imagine calling out for your dad? I'm like, "Daddy! Daddy! Yo, tu es petit moi mourir." That's what I'm saying. I said, my child is dead. They told me they killed my child. That's what I said to my dad. I turned into a little girl that night. And then have to get that phone call. I have to tell his dad that his son no longer here. My daughter called me. She's like, "Mom, I don't understand. I'm at the hospital. They're saying he's not here." I got to break that down to her, letting her know that her little brother that she helped me raise is gone. Imagine everyone calling you that night to find out what's going on with your son. And when you tell them that your son passed away, they hang up on you. From that night all the way to the morning, that's what happened to me, Your Honor. Because nobody couldn't believe Kimo, out of everybody, Kimo, who don't bother nobody, that's the only way she would be able to kill him, is at home, because he doesn't go anywhere. The only way Kimo going somewhere if he know his food there. That's the only way. Imagine that. Imagine going through all that. And you still gotta be a mom. You still gotta be strong. You still gotta make sure everything goes right so you can send your baby away. You gotta sign papers. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. You know how I had to identify my baby? With a goddamn picture. That's how I had to identify my son, by a picture. And he died with his eyes closed and his mouth open like he was shocked. He was in disbelief. Imagine going through that. Imagine going through all that. Imagine picking out your child casket. Right? Because he's supposed to do that for me. I'm not supposed to do that for him. Imagine doing that. It took them 4 days to release my baby body. 4 days. The funeral home called me and said, "Natalie, I just got his body. Are you sure you want to see him like that?" I said, "That's my baby. They told me he died. I got to see it for myself." 4 days don't went past. Everybody told me he dead, but you got to see it to believe it. When I went to go see my baby, he was unrecognizable. His skin already melted. His skull was here. The only thing you seen, no defense wound or anything, was that gash around his chest where she stabbed him. And through all that ugly, Your Honor, through all that ugly, you still could see that beautiful smile. Through all that. Through all that, Your Honor. And then you have to prepare to send your child to go home. You know how hard that is to see your child? It's different to see your child in a box. It's totally different. I can't even tell you what was said at the funeral. All I remember she said was, "Mom, one last time." Then I had to stand there, me, his dad, and my dad, and close my son's casket. And when that door went down, I went down with it. It went down again, and I went down with it. It went down, and I went down again, because I had to see it all the way through. Then I heard, click. And my whole world just stopped. when I got to that cemetery, every emotion that I've been holding on and trying to keep strong and all that came out at that cemetery, because now you're really seeing that it's true. It's really true. And I said, Kimo, you trying to tell me you left me? You left me? Kimo, you left me? So you saying that my son not here today because he chose not to be with somebody? My son lost his life because he chose peace? She took that knife, stabbed him in the chest and pierced his heart, and my son bled out. She called me on December 12th and said my son broke up with her. 8 days later, she killed my son, but she want me to believe they was horseplaying. Because that's what they're saying. And through this whole proceeding, and while we crying and going through stuff, her family back here just laughing and like brushing us off like we don't have no feelings and like we're nobody, like we're not valid, that we want justice. Because had my son did that to her, it would have been totally different, right? Totally different. Through this whole proceeding, she never showed remorse. She never showed she cared. You can even look at the news clip. Not one time she showed that she cared. She actually showed that she'll do it again, to me. But it's horseplaying. Your Honor, I'm asking for the max. My son deserved it. She earned that max when she pulled out that knife and stabbed my son in the chest and pierced his heart. Imagine this, Your Honor, being your normal conversation from now and forever. Dang, if Kimo was here. Dang, y'all remember when Kimo did this? You forgot how Kimo used to laugh? Oh man, I wish Kimo was here. Dang, I'm not gonna lie, I miss Kimo. That's our reality now, Your Honor, now and forever. So, all we asking for the max, we believe she deserved more than that. The justice system been failing us since day one, Your Honor. And I hope today you serve justice. I hope today you show why you sit on that bench and wear that robe. Right is right, wrong is wrong. She was wrong. If she never pulled out that knife, my son would be here and we wouldn't be sitting facing each other today, Your Honor. We just want what my son deserves. His life matters. I do not want to leave here today, Your Honor, feeling like I lost my son all over again, Your Honor. Thank you for listening to me and my family. I hope today you got a sense of Kimo, who Kimo was, and I hope you see when you look out there how much he was loved, Your Honor. Thank you.
Alright, Ms. Green, you're going to be placed under oath.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yahkeim Kaine Lollar was not only a pillar in his community, but also MVP, athlete. He also was my nephew. I just want to say that he holds a special place in our hearts. Sorry, Ms. Harper. A special place in our hearts. Words can no longer express the pain or the deep sorrow that we feel about his murder. I hear you guys mention him as a victim. Yahkeim Kaine Lollar was just a victim of love, mistrust, and of course betrayal. Kimo was a math whiz, a loving brother, a young man with a bright and promising future. His life was taken. Kimo was murdered. Our family relives that every single day. His absence has left a void that can never be filled. We will no longer be able to celebrate holidays without feeling that pain and reliving the trauma, especially New Year's, without feeling the loss of the love, the laughter, and the joy that Kimo brings to every one of our lives. Each and every December, we are reminded of the traumatizing moments Jahara Malik put our family through. 5 days before Christmas, she decided to go to his home, his safe place, 5 days before Christmas, and murder him. His kindness, his trusting nature were taken advantage of in a split second. Sorry,
It's okay. Take your time.
In the most devastating way, this pain of his absence is constant and everlasting. When I look into my niece Treasure's eyes, or to Mia, I instinctively think Kimo's right behind them, expecting to see Kimo beside her for first day pictures or family gatherings. I am met with the pain of having to realize that he's no longer with us. Important milestones that were stolen. I'm so sorry. Important milestones that were stolen that we could have celebrated with Kimo, like his 2026 prom pictures with his classmates. His graduation was stolen from us. The ability to have his first child, or his first drink. The future that he was working so hard towards. An honor roll student, never had any disciplinary action, never been arrested. Yahkeim Kaine Lollar was literally the epitome of a good child. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, were the words that you would get from him when you speak with Yahkeim Kaine Lollar. He was brought up in a family that way. Yahkeim Kaine Lollar deserves justice. Jahara Malik deserves 30 years. The Jean family deserves justice. The Lollar family deserves justice. Yahkeim Kaine Lollar deserves justice. The only thing he was a victim of was trusting the wrong individual to come downstairs and open the door for her. Trusting the wrong person, loving the wrong person. When have you ever been in love at 16, 17 and had a relationship that was ended for your life to be taken? As a registered behavior therapist in the state of Florida, self-regulation is important. A parent is supposed to install that in their child. They failed her. And her actions has caused our entire family irreparable pain. Nothing, no amount of money, no amount of time you give her will take the pain away that we all feel when we do not have in our lives. And I'm being completely honest when I tell you this. He was a beautiful, bright soul. His smile light up any room he walked into. And he mattered. Victim this, victim that. The only thing he was a victim of was placing his love and his trust into the wrong, trifling young lady. Not even a young lady, the murderer. Because she is a murderer. Everyone keeps saying stab, stab, stab. She murdered him. Cold blood. When someone says no, no means no. The video shows that as well. She deserves the max.
Your Honor, next we're going to have Kimo.
You sound swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Your Honor, Kimo was my godson. As I stand here today carrying a loss that cannot be measured and a pain that will never heal, Kimo, as we affectionately called him, and will forever remember him, was 17 years old,
a young black boy that has grown into a young man who we all love, full of dreams and life. That life was tragically stolen from him. His absence is permanent, it is forever. And it does not affect just one person. It has left an entire family, a circle of friends, and a community carrying the unbearable weight of this tragedy. At the age of 17, a person understands the difference between right and wrong. This was not a mistake. This was a decision to take a life that had immeasurable value and deserved to be lived. There must be accountability. We are outraged by this devastating and senseless act, and we are completely broken. I hosted Kimo's 8th grade prom watch, and every time I see his picture from that night, whether it was on the news or social media, it breaks me to the core. Kimo was so fly. Him and another kid that I can't even remember his name right now, and we was calling him Bobby Brown, and just having such a great time. All the kids was laughing full of joy and talking about how they was going to ride for their 12th grade prom. In helicopters, they was already talking about how much fun that they were going to have, their life, and things that they wanted to do after high school. But instead of watching him walk into a senior prom, we are faced with decorating the top of his gravesite. Instead of seeing him put on his cap and gown and walk across the stage to shake the principal's hand to receive his high school diploma that he earned, we will be faced with the pain of making a makeshift graduation, draping his gravesite with his cap and gown and placing his high school diploma on top of it because someone in this courtroom today decided that Kimo's life didn't matter. All of Kimo's dreams are now forever 17. Your Honor, I respectfully ask you to consider the full depth and lasting impact of this loss and impose the maximum sentence. Thank you for your time. Justice for Kimo.
Your Honor, next we'll have Stephanie Darris.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Marie Stephanie Darris, and I am the maternal aunt of Yahkeim Kaine Lollar. Thank you for taking the time out to listen to me today. It truly means more than I could put into words. I can still remember the day my older sister Natalie gave birth to Yahkeim. We were actually in the middle of planning her baby shower. I can remember the excitement and happiness she felt to be having a baby boy. When she called me and said she had gone into labor, I was a little shocked, but nevertheless, my sisters and we all rushed to the hospital to be by her side. When we walked in the room, I remember her just smiling despite everything, saying, "You have to see how cute he is." In that moment, nothing else mattered. It was pure love, pure happiness, welcoming Yahkeim into this world. My brother-in-law David took us down to the NICU to see him. I remember thinking, how adorable is this kid? Even then, there was something special about him. Something you could feel the moment you looked at him. It's moments like that I will never forget. So small, so simple, yet the kind that stay with you forever. Like the first time I seen his smile. That smile, the one I'll never forget. Yahkeim had such a beautiful smile. You know, the kind of smile that made you smile back? Even as he grew up, he kept that same smile. He would run up to me with the biggest smile and always say the same thing. "Hi, Auntie Stephanie."
followed by the warmest hug every single time I seen him. Even as he got older, the love never stopped. He was truly a blessing and such a beautiful soul, and that was our Kimo. From the time he was a baby, that was who he was. And I'm honored, as well as my sisters, to have had the privilege of watching him grow into an amazing young man. And I'm so proud to be his auntie. His presence touched not just our family, but everyone around him, as you can see in this courtroom here today. But now our light is gone, and we're left asking why. Why was he taken from us? Every day we are left of trying to make sense of something that will never make sense. We are not grieving only who we lost, but everything he was meant to become. And I want it to be known, I'm not standing here today out of anger. I'm standing here seeking justice for someone who meant the world to all of us. Someone who was deeply loved, someone who mattered and should still be here with us today. And that is why I respectfully ask for the maximum sentence of 30 years. I don't understand that nothing will ever bring Kimo back, but accountability matters. She must be held responsible for her actions. Justice for Yahkeim is more than words. It means ensuring that his life is not overlooked and that the full weight of what was taken from him and from all of us is recognized. A sentence like this affirms that his life had value, that he mattered, and that what happened to him carries real consequence. Also making certain that she carries the weight of what she has done today, not only today, but for the rest of her life. Though the pain of losing Yahkeim will never fully go away, we will continue to honor his legacy. We will cherish his memory and hold on to the love that he gave all of us and the light he brought into our lives. Long live Kimo. He will forever be in our hearts, a life taken too soon. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak, ma'am.
Next we have Casey Beecham, which will be followed by Rachel.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Good afternoon. My name is Casey. Kimo's uncle. Ever since Kimo was a little baby, he spent a lot of time with me, my mother, my family, and he was always such a joy to be around. He took an immediate liking to playing football. He played football for the Helping Hands Bulls at Olinda Park. I remember going to the park every Saturday, watching Kimo take that ball from a quarterback, run through the line, and nobody could catch him. I just knew for sure that, Kimo was going, everyone knew that he was going to be somewhere. He was going to be a professional athlete, at very least. Going to Trash Power to see him play for Miami Northwestern Senior High. Same thing, taking that ball from the quarterback, running it to a touchdown. And today, I'm in a different arena, trying to defend my nephew, defend his honor. I could never, ever believe that I would be here today. But, through the callous and careless actions of an individual that didn't care about anyone but herself, and it's evident in the video. After she stabbed him, what happened? What if he's alive? What if he's dead? What happened? She was thinking about herself. She didn't care about Kimo. I don't believe she took any actions to save his life. The action she could have taken to save his life was leave that kitchen knife in the drawer at home and not take it with you to go see him. I carry a knife for protection. It's not a kitchen knife, it's a pocket knife. And for as far as it being a horse playing. I never played that game in school. Never played it on any playgrounds. It wasn't horseplay, especially after she said she got mad. She got mad. That's when the play stopped. They were no longer playing. Kimo was like, "Please, Jahara, stop, don't do it." And she took that knife and she plunged it into his heart. He didn't walk into it. She plunged it into his heart, 4 inches of knife going through his ribs, straight through his heart. I know he suffered. And Your Honor, Kimo, he was testified today that he didn't attack her. He didn't do it. I believe that Kimo was not a mean kid. He was a great kid, but he didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve it. But I can tell you this, that Jahara deserved the maximum. Your Honor, right over your head. We who labor here seek only truth. That statement instills truth. It instills faith and fidelity that this court has integrity. And the only truth here today is Jahara meant to kill Kimo. Kimo is dead, and his attacker deserved the maximum 30 years and even more. When we're second time in this court asking for justice for someone who killed our family member. My father was killed in 1999, and in the same court we sought justice and we got justice. And I please, Your Honor, I beg you, give us that same measure of justice that my father's killer got in this same court. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr.
Next is Rashawn Darris, then to be followed by Yahkeim Lollar Jr.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah, I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Rashawn Darris. I'm here to talk about my cousin Kimo and his impact he had on me and my family. Kimo brought life into people's lives. He respected everyone and never would try to do anything to dishonor you or make you feel uncomfortable. Since my cousin passed, my family has had many regrets. For me, it was wishing I had more time with my cousin. The last time I see him, I said, "I'll see you next time I come to Miami." The next time I see my cousin was at his funeral. This loss has changed everything to me. It's broken my family apart. This is a permanent void, and Kimo is a permanent void in my life that can never be replaced. But it's not his fault. His life was taken from him by somebody that had no birthdays, holidays will never be the same without my cousin. He died the day before my little brother's birthday, 2 days before my uncle's birthday, and 5 days before his father's. Kimo mattered, and his life should be respected. With that being said, I respectfully ask the court to consider the full weight of the loss and impose the maximum penalty. Thank you, Your Honor.
Next, we have Yahkeim Lollar Jr. to be followed by Sarah.
Raise your right hand. Please do solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. I said you excuse my voice, please.
It's okay. Take your time.
Yeah. I can say a lot about my younger brother. You know, more specifically about the day we met, but I won't do that because I don't want to deal with that right now. I can say one day, you know, like I said, my family said he was good at football. I remember one day I had left my own practice, and I made it a mission to go see his football game because he had one on Friday, which was very unusual for me. And I got there at the later part of the game, and like they said, my brother was a superstar. when it came to football, nobody came close to him, and I say that with all honesty. I go and I see my brother, his last play of the game.